Today on CityCast Nashville, we're talking about the Nashville Ballet's annual performance of The Nutcracker. But after a year and a half of stories about the upheaval in funding at Metro Arts, we thought it was important to try and unpack how that chaos is impacting not just the ballet, but younger and scrappier companies too. Joining me for the first half of today's show is Nick Mulligan, Artistic Director and CEO of the Nashville Ballet. In the second half, you'll meet two directors on the opposite side of the budgetary spectrum. Asia Pyron, director and choreographer of Pie Dance, and Sarah Aitenhan, president and artistic director of Satellite Dance. They'll discuss their current projects, their passion for bringing dance to Nashville, and their frustrations with the system that funds their work. Hopefully, you'll walk away excited to support all of these dance companies during and beyond this holiday season. It's Monday, December 9th. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. Personally, I love visiting TPAC, the Frist, the Symphony, and the Nashville Ballet. Thanks to Metro Arts, these legacy institutions receive reliable funding from the city's annual budget every year. In the summer of 2023, after a lot of community input, Metro Arts approved a more equitable award structure that increased funding to smaller arts organizations and individual artists via a long-standing program called Thrive. After pushback, reportedly from some of the legacy institutions, the new Thrive award structure was overturned, and the director of Metro Arts was forced to resign. A group of Thrive artists also filed a formal discrimination complaint against Metro and won, and the original funding was eventually paid out. But the chaos continues, and as of this recording, the Arts Commission has no official plan for what happens next. It's a deep rabbit hole, y'all, but a very important one. We'll put some links in our show notes to help you if you want to learn more. Meanwhile, the Sugar Plum Fairy is waiting in the wings, so here's my conversation with Nick Mulligan, the CEO and artistic director of the Nashville Ballet. The Nashville Ballet has been performing its current version of The Nutcracker since 2008. Nick, what makes it so special?
Paul Vasterling, our artistic director emeritus and who was the artistic director before me, actually really created this ballet with the city of Nashville in mind. And so it takes the Centennial exhibition from way back in the late 1800s and has Claire visit all of these different stands and different places where the international characters come in. And so you get to experience sort of the richness of our history, the richness of our culture, while mixing that all together with the holidays and really diving into the tradition of what makes Nashville special while highlighting that really wonderful thing that makes family special. So all of these things come together in harmony with beautiful dancing and then with the Nashville Symphony. This is magic, right? And then you're downtown and it's Christmas and all of these things are happening. Plus, we like to make it interesting because we've been doing it for so long. So we tend to throw little new bits and pieces here. We added a new snow scene a couple of years ago. And then this year, we're actually expanding the battle scene so that we have some more women on point from our second company to really kind of zhuzh it up and make that seem more exciting.
So are you telling me it's going to snow again?
There is a good potential for that, but I can't make any promises.
Oh my gosh, I went 2 years ago, I believe, and it started snowing in the theater and I almost started crying. It was so beautiful. It was so amazing and magical.
It's so much fun for us to see the audience's reaction to that moment.
Right. Well, so can we expect anything this year that's different from past performances like you're saying? I mean, we're saying maybe snow, maybe not.
One of the things that we love about the Nutcracker is the opportunity it provides our young dancers to get on stage and to do the work. And so actually we opened up our youth cast opportunity to the general public again for the first time since COVID. And so we have a group of students age 8 to 12 joining us in our youth cast to come from all across Nashville.
I was going to ask how you find your Clara. Is our Clara this year from the Nashville Ballet School or from our general public?
So there are a couple of things that being a student at the School of Nashville Ballet does help you with. And that is one of them is, we are really proud of the training that we offer here. And so for some of those more challenging and more featured, we certainly want to make sure that we have our students who we know the training of, and that we can also make sure that if there's an extra rehearsal needed or some conversation, we can really help to refine that for those students.
Yes, one of my friend's daughters was Clara a couple years ago, and it was maybe like the biggest break of her life.
Well, that's the thing. Some of these students start out so young and they really work through the school for this opportunity. And we always want to reward that hard work. And we're really proud of that aspect of what we do here.
Am I hearing the Nutcracker playing in the background right now? Is there a rehearsal going on, or do you just have it on loop during this time of year?
I promise it is not mood music. It is actually right now a rehearsal taking place outside of my office down in our main studio. We are deep in the middle of it. We're just about a week and a half out from opening and being at TPAC. So every waking moment, every studio in this building is just living and breathing Nutcracker.
Oh, wow. We're recording this in advance, but by the time this episode comes out, the Nutcracker will be up and running. So how exciting for us to get this a little behind the scenes. Let's talk about what the ballet does beyond the stage. What type of outreach programs does the Nashville Ballet promote, such as field trips or public school programs?
Last year, Nashville Ballet gave 16,000 individuals free arts experiences by being a part of this community. And that ranges from our teaching artists going to the Nashville Public Library and reading stories about dance and having people experience that, to our dancers hosting a literacy program called Jump Frog Jump for Head Start students coming into our building. And then last year, one of the things that I put in my first year as artistic director was a return to hosting students at TPAC to watch the Nutcracker. So we had nearly 2,000 students from Title I schools able to see a dress rehearsal with the full company, full costumes, and the symphony playing. And that doesn't count us performing at Monroe Carroll Children's Hospital. That doesn't count the different times that we go into the schools and really make a difference with these students and really giving teachers that chance to learn and develop their curriculum around art as part of the overall MMPS experience. And then lastly, we are always sending our teaching artists into the Title I schools to have that chance to learn from our faculty. And then those students, if they are demonstrating promise and they want to do it, can come to School of Nashville Ballet, do an audition, and if selected, can have a scholarship that carries them through their entire training time at Nashville Ballet. So they get free training with Nashville Ballet as part of being in our residency school programs.
It's great to hear. As you know, the legacy arts organizations here in Nashville, from the Broadway series at TPAC, the Frist Museum, yourselves, the Symphony, continue to struggle to attract diverse audiences. What I'm saying here is it's just a lot of white people in those rooms sometimes. And I'm so curious what steps y'all are taking to make going to the ballet more inclusive and accessible to a wider audience.
I mean, one of the things that I think we have been at the forefront here at Nashville Ballet in the ballet space is trying to be as inclusive and focusing on DEI work as we possibly can. I think one of the things that we've been really excited about perpetually doing is giving everyone a chance to have their choreographic voice on stage. And then if you look at our company, I think it really represents the city of Nashville, and we're really proud of that. And it's something we've made a concerted effort to do. And so we really feel like we are trying to overcome some of those barriers that ballet has put into place, and we recognize them. They have been around for a very long time, and some of these traditional art forms aren't necessarily conducive to making change. And one of my favorite parts about coming to work here in Nashville Ballet after a long time in different professional ballet spaces was when I worked with Paul, and we would sit there and say, Paul, this is how it's always been. This is how ballet needs to be, just as a general conversation. And he would say, why? Why does ballet need to be this way? Why can't we do it different in Nashville? Why can't we find a different way to make our audiences want to come and see this work? Why can't we be inclusive? Why can't we have this conversation? And that's what led us to making the change in simple things like tight color, right? So each one of our artists get to wear flesh tone tights. So if you come to the Nutcracker and you see the corps de ballet, their tight colors are going to be reflective of their skin tone, not of a pink ballet dancer, not of anything else, but really truly trying to create the individual artist in the space. And they'll get the chance to see what I consider to be a wide-ranging, diverse lead group of artists on stage as well, which I think is really fantastic. All kinds of different ethnicities and different kinds of approach, but still practicing the classical art of ballet in their way. And so I would hope their audiences can see that and that they feel like that's something that they can attach themselves to. I think that we also give a lot of time and energy to our staff to make sure that we're getting proper trainings and being a part of really learning how to be better stewards and be better citizens of this community.
Yes. And arts funding in Nashville has been quite a point of discussion recently, particularly with the ongoing struggles of Metro Arts to come up with equitable funding mechanism. How has this ongoing debate affected the Nashville Ballet, and what do you think that means for the future of the arts in the city?
I mean, everything that's been happening with Metro Arts has been a challenge for everyone all around. And I think that the individual artists have every right to be frustrated and to want to go after what it is that they deserve. I think it's really important that artists have that chance to take a risk, to be able to go ahead and create something without worrying about whether or not they can pay the rent that day. I would say that the future of arts funding in Nashville is going to be predicated on leadership of the city, and that it is my true aspiration that Metro Arts and honestly the mayor sign up for the idea that the arts are what makes Nashville special, and that we are a community that does collaboration. We do thrive by creating fantastic work that you can't see anywhere else. At Nashville Ballet, my aspirational vision is that we create something hyper-local that resonates on a global scale. And we can only do that with having the means to be funded, to take the risk. That if you want to see us take a change in programming from having to do classical ballets that tend to pay the bills to work that really does push the envelope of what is considered to be the typical ballet, we need the resources to be able to fund that work. I think, last year was really problematic in that promises were made that weren't able to be kept on both sides of the equation during the course of this. And so I look forward to seeing what the new rubrics are and what level of support we can expect with transparency so that we can plan and do things accordingly to make sure that we as an organization can keep our doors open. And I don't believe that there's an us and them, no matter how it gets painted. I truly believe there is just an us trying to make sure that everybody gets what they need. And I'm in full support of every one of those individual artists getting what they need.
Do we fund the arts enough in general in Nashville?
The short answer is no. I mean, that's really that's where I think the heart of the issue is with this. And that's why I don't love the us and them conversation that takes place in this, because it's the finite resources that are driving this. And really, if we were more in line with, I think, other elements of communities in different parts of this country, I think of Austin, I think of Charlotte really is the two examples that we've really used in terms of the total amount of budget allocated to the arts. We would see more opportunity for organizations to thrive.
And we're back. And joining us now is Asia Pyron of Pie Dance and Sarah Aitenhan of Satellite Dance. These directors and their companies may not receive the same level of Metro Arts funding as the ballet, but their work is no less important to Nashville's dance scene. Asia, I'd love to start with you. Tell me about Pie Dance and your vision behind it.
Pie Dance is really a dance company that is trying to connect with the masses. Our work is inspired by a lot of pop culture, music, history, Nashville history, things that people can really connect to if they've never experienced concert dance.
What Nashville history has influenced your style of dance?
So one of the first projects that Pie Dance did was called Pool. And we actually partnered with Nashville's Centennial Arts Center, which used to be a segregated pool back in the 60s. But once integration laws came into effect, the Nashville City Council decided to shut down all public pools to avoid integration. But because it was a historical artifact, they were able to actually keep the infrastructure. And so now there is literally still the deep end of the pool there. And so my company created a piece to actually be presented in the deep end of the pool for people to be in that kind of historical kind of roots that racism has on Nashville, but also kind of illuminating the beauty. I mean, if you've been to Centennial Arts Center, it is amazing. It's gorgeous. It's unique. And so Pie Dance really wanted to bring people to it and bring people to see the meaning of what it is to live here and how you're walking on history all the time.
Sarah, I'd love to talk to you about how your company emerged from a little less traditional place. Would you tell me about how your recovery from your injury grew into Satellite Dance?
It's sort of a lifelong journey to get to Satellite. I was born with a genetic disorder called hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Growing up in the dance space, I was very sick and very injured, and no one could find out what was wrong with me. I also had undiagnosed neurodivergence. So I navigated the dance world being largely discouraged by my contemporaries and my instructors. And so I was a professional dancer in Chicago and suffered a catastrophic neck injury during a rehearsal. And I was very young. I was 26. I had spinal surgery after that. That was very successful. And I really connected with the aerial community because it was a possibility of moving without having to put so much demand of my body on the floor.
What is aerial dance? Will you explain it to me? I mean, I think I've seen it. I think I've seen it. Is it what Pink does?
Yes, it's what Pink does. So essentially, aerial dance basically is born out of two schools, broadly speaking. There's sort of the circus school. So when we think of Cirque du Soleil and people suspended from the ceiling and doing highly athletic acrobatic movements. And then there's another school of aerial that's sort of born out of the mid-50s postmodern dance scene, using aerial as another tool for storytelling and expression. So Satellite plays with both schools. And so I came to Nashville and I started a for-profit studio in Mount Juliet, integrated an aerial program, invited some other contemporary dancers to perform small studio black box works. And the people that I found that I really connected with also had a connective tissue disorder and also had neurodivergence. So we work with youth, recreational, and professional dancers. We help them through the many phases of their lives. We give them a space that is accommodating. So we're very adaptable in our practices. We share as much resources as we can with each other and with other partnerships in the Nashville community, both dance related and not dance related. And we just make sure that we really take care of each other and ourselves in our dance making process.
Asia, I saw that you won in the Nashville scene Best Dance Performance for this choreographed piece that you did, Murder of Crows.
Yeah.
Could you explain a little bit of what inspired this work?
I based it off of just the observation of murder mysteries. Clue the movie was a huge inspiration for this show. It is a soiree where 5 characters get invited to a murder mansion. Don't know why they're there, don't know who invited them, don't know the host, but they all have secrets and they all have something to hide. And essentially, usually in a murder mystery, the whole point is that you're trying to figure out who done it. But in Murder of Crows, everybody kills and everybody dies.
And how does this type of recognition help an independent company like Pie Dance?
Getting that recognition of Best Dance Performance in Nashville, even though it was awarded to me in Murder of Crows, I really believe that it was just a victory for all dance companies in Nashville just to get any recognition at all. I think that Nashville is so amazing of an art city. And I think that like the dance here is just, it's percolating, it's moving so fast, it's growing, and I just was so thankful to have the people on my team that I did.
It was really cool earlier when I got to introduce the two of you to each other, because I know that you've heard of one another but hadn't met prior to this conversation. And Asia, it sounds like you've had the chance to do some really great collaboration here in Nashville. And Sarah, I'm curious, have you had the exact same experience in collaboration here?
Satellite is, at its heart, a community-focused organization. When we say we're adaptable not only to the people in the room, including audience members and artists, but we're adaptable to the world we live in. You know, we're called Satellite for several reasons, but we adapt our art to the worlds that we orbit. So this past year, we partnered with the Hermitage Public Library for a 2-part program called Storyscapes. It was just a really beautiful experience, not only to engage with another community resource, but also to demonstrate to our community that there's more opportunities for a cross-section of dancers to come together and make something special. It doesn't have to be the Nutcracker. I love the Nutcracker. I think it's wonderful and a great resource, but what are some other ways we can integrate these populations together?
How has the disarray at Metro Arts impacted each of your companies and your work?
I'll only speak directly of my experience. My relationship with Metro Arts is new. So I first engaged with them when I performed at the mayoral inauguration. It was great. And afterwards, I started getting a lot of community engagement from them saying, hey, you really need to consider applying for these grants for fiscal year 25. And I said, I'm hesitant. It seems like there's a little bit of tumult going on in your organization. Is that true? Should I really be applying for these things? And they said, yes, do it. Great, do it. So I submitted my grant, and I sort of see it as like a relationship. I felt like I was love bombed, and then I was ghosted.
Oh, no.
I waited several months, and sort of in the late spring, early summer, I said, what's the status of my grant applications? And I did not receive a response. I made a promise to my community that we were going to engage with other organizations and we were going to get more dancing opportunities for our community. And that put an extreme amount of pressure on me. All I want is a personal acknowledgement, an apology. We're sorry, we're working on it. Metro Arts, they need us. They need our organizations, just like we need them. And I am not quite feeling that they understand that they need us. And my father, who's been a freelance artist his whole life, when he saw me going into a similar business, he said, if you're going to do this, rule number one, don't F with people's money. So that's the mantra. Don't F with people's money. It's not just money, it's livelihood, it's opportunity, it's equitable practices, it's everything the money represents. These budgets aren't life-changing budgets, they're project-changing budgets. It won't take me from a struggling artist to a super successful artist. It will take a limited project to a less limited project. So that's the scale of funding that we are talking about. And I feel like I'm not directly getting that acknowledgement or respect from that organization at this time. I'm begging them to change my mind. Please change my mind, Metro Arts. I am here for you if you are here for me. It's a relationship. Can we both honor the relationship? That's all.
Asia, what's been your experience? I know that you briefly worked at Metro Arts doing their social media. Is that true?
Yes. And so I was actually the social media associate this past year. And even though I really can't speak too much about like all the drama and all the turmoil that has been followed by it, what I can speak to is definitely the staff of Metro Arts are probably some of the most hardworking, supportive, actual artists in the city that needed them the most. And if I can really put any comment, I would say like being careful about who exactly you're talking about when you say Metro Arts. I think people think that Metro Arts is like one big group of people, and we're not. You have to look at the Metro Arts commissioners. You got to look at the Metro Arts staff. You got to look at the Metro Arts recipients. And before I worked for Metro Arts, I received the Thrive Grant, which was honestly astounding to me. It was so helpful. I was able to accomplish Pool because of that grant. And I had known about Metro Arts Thrive before I even came to Nashville. And that was something that was super attractive because there are not a lot of grants in the South that allow you to get more than like $2,000 for being an independent artist. And it was really hard for me to, even now, I'm still not a nonprofit yet. It has been amazing that I've found partners that are nonprofits to even help me get the funding that I've been able to get. I don't believe that any of the press that's been going out about Metro Arts is accurate. I think everything is very confusing. It's hard and it's sad to see staff members come in so passionate and to kind of see the commissioners and city people and people, who are really kind of making it extremely hard for us. I totally understand. Like, I am right there with every artist who is trying to get money to employ their dancers and to make a living out of the work. And as Nashville gets more expensive and things change with politics, I think that the reality is that this is the arts in the South. I think that our battle to even get to the places that Boston and New York are at is going to take a lot more than just applying for grants, because Metro Arts is just something that's going to take years for it to get anywhere. But it is definitely very hard to be a part of that change. And I only hope that more people will be considered as Metro Arts commissioners. I hope that there are more artists who are in the commissioners' places and not lawyers. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Asia, do you feel like the system that gave you the Thrive Grant to fund Pool still exists today?
No, I'd probably say no. I just because I'd say the passion and the want is there, especially just being a staff member. We were doing what we were supposed to do: inspire people to make art, inspire people to apply, because we need the numbers. We need people to apply. We have to show the city that this is something that we need. It's unfortunate that the city didn't come through for us.
I really appreciate hearing that perspective. Sarah, what would an ideal arts funding environment look like here in Nashville, in your opinion?
I think funding for individual artists or projects should be granted and should be easier access. It's extremely difficult to have a 501c3. And a lot of companies and projects don't require that level of status, to get their work done. I think doing what we're doing now is lifting up those nano micro organizations and acknowledging how resourceful, sustainable, and scrappy organizations, either with that nonprofit status or not, regardless of that, how scrappy and hardworking and resourceful we are. My takeaway from Nashville so far is I came down here with really high hopes that a smaller performing arts population would mean that we'd stick together. And it does feel a little bit like a California gold rush where everyone's trying to get theirs. It's not a direct pit one organization against the other, but with scarcity, there is that level of competition. Exactly. I don't have a solution for how funding should be oriented in Nashville or the South or United States. I think, like Asia was saying, it is a trickle-down issue without federal funding the way other countries do it. I'm not an expert on it, but, I know enough to know that arts funding in the United States is extremely difficult. And until we as a society get on board with how important it is to share voices across the spectrum, it's going to continue to come back down between, metro arts and artists, artists against artists, person against person. And it's tough. It's really, really tough.
Well, I want to end on a little bit of a happier note. So let's look towards 2025 and get excited for what's to come. Can you tell us what to expect for Satellite Dance for next year?
Our strategy for 2025 is quality over quantity. So for several years, we were sort of balancing weekly classes, workshops, and programming against these sort of larger projects, 2 to 3 larger projects a year. And now we're shifting towards more access to aerial dance. We're looking to start offering workshops. We currently operate out of Hermitage Dance Academy. We're like a little Sephora and a Kohl's, if you will. And so we're maintaining that relationship, but we're also looking to expand. I live in Old Hickory Village, and I would love to bring some workshop programming and performances, give people who don't want to go downtown a way to see great art at an accessible, affordable price. So that's our workshop. We're invited to perform with Nashville Dance Collective in April. I can't say too much about that yet, but we're longtime collaborators with that organization. So we're really excited to work with them in April. And then towards the fall, we're looking to either do another program with a library or find another creative collaboration. So schools, galleries, theaters, any sort of organization that wants to bring some arts programming into their space, let us share audiences and share resources and share successes.
And Asia, what do we have next year coming from Pi Dance?
Yes, Pi Dance is so excited we actually just launched tickets for our upcoming performance at Tennessee Performing Arts Center. We will be premiering a new production called God's Country, which is a dance production inspired by the band Chat Pile, which is a sludge metal band based out of Oklahoma City. The show is essentially illuminating the punk and metal culture I feel I've explored in Nashville. So if you are somebody who loves metal music, loves moshing, loves crowd surfing, and want to see that on a stage, that is exactly what you're going to get.
Awesome. Well, in our show notes, listeners, we're going to have both dance companies' information. I hope you all sign up to get all their emails and alerts for when they're performing here in town. I know I'm going to be doing that immediately after this interview, signing up because I don't want to miss any of these performances. This is really, truly amazing. So thank you both for being here. And I'll see you on the dance floor. I won't see you in the dance floor. I'll see you in the audience.
Thank you.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Toodles!